Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I'm back with another Starcraft 2 1 versus 1 bot AI cast. And we have got ourselves what should be a good one here today, as it's going to be Xena taking on Sharkling in a TVZ. And yes, it's probably going to be a bit of a cheesy one, as I think these two bots both have a bit of a reputation for that. And oh, okay, here we go. Apparently, this is how it starts out, with a massive drone pull from Sharkling. And this is not just like a drone pull, this is a drone pull, as it pulls all the workers. This is even before a spawning pool gets done. And yeah, this is going to be a good test for Zena, whether it can handle 16 drones running at it with their angry lobster claws. And so, ladies and gentlemen, before we get too far into this one, make sure to go ahead, click that like button. If we can get 16 likes for 16 angry drones, that would be amazing. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave a comment saying more bots, more worker rushes, whatever it may be, as Sharkling does set to work on the first racks. However, Xena is going for a multi-rack strategy, but we'll see, as SCVs are being pulled off the line to repair this racks. Sharkling is like, I can actually just kill the racks if my drones are given enough time. There's the fancy footwork from these bots pulling back the injured workers to try and minimize damage, although a Marine is out, which is very problematic for Sharkling, as the blue Zerg bot is eating lots of shots from that Marine. If it had surrounded that Marine, maybe it would have had success. And it did kill off 17 workers. So it's like, okay, maybe it didn't kill off 17 workers. It killed off 10 workers and is at 16 to 8. But this would be the time to abandon such a rush, but that is not happening, as Sharkling is now letting that worker count get evened on up as it loses many of its workers. Doesn't seem to have that much of a retreat function for these drones. The drones, they still want to fight, but at the same time they have good logic for the most part, in that they want to run away. But yes, now we have got Xena pushing across the map angrily after having lost a bunch of SCVs, going to be potentially going for a counterattack. Xena saying attacking the main with 2 supply. We'll see if the drones will be able to defend themselves from these 2 Marines or not, and how this game is going to be followed up, as Sharkling is just trying to get its drone count back up, but that means no pool, nothing like that, and it's going to be in a little bit of trouble depending on how this engagement goes. This many drones should be able to kill off these Marines, but we shall see, as the Marines come on in and the drones are just running. They are not pulling to fight these Marines like they should be. Sharkling saying, are you going to expand? I don't think Xena necessarily needs to do that, as this worker rush seems to have been countered pretty darn effectively by the Terran bot, just from the builds, the fact that Xena pulled enough workers, and that Sharkling maybe was attacking the buildings a little too long. And then, yeah, these drones, they're just going to run away basically endlessly from these Marines and never address the problem, which goes to show the challenge of programming good worker behavior as far as movement and when to fight and when to run goes, because if your drones are programmed to run when they need to fight, they'll all just die. And so that is going to be it for this one, and this is where it's of course revealed that this will be a multi-part video, ladies and gentlemen, so stay tuned as we'll jump into the next match, as Xena does take this one rather handily. GG. Alright, so here we are, ladies and gentlemen, into our second match. It's going to be Xena once more taking on Sharkbot this time. And so, yes, Sharkbot, maybe a bit of an upgraded bot compared to Sharkling, although I do believe there is some relation there based off the names. And yes, I do believe Sharkling is the Zerg version of Sharkbot, but Sharkbot definitely the better of the projects. And then we have got Xena playing Terran once again. So rolling the dice and getting that Terran match. So TVP, Sharkbot is going for a probe scout in order to see what it's up against. And then this probe has some very interesting pathing, but you can kind of see how these bots digest the map in a way, as the probe just heads on in, says enemy random race, Terran, tag B core expand robo. So Sharkbot playing what seems to be a fairly generic strategy against an opponent that is playing random, which is usually how you want to play. Scout out your opponent, that kind of thing. We do have a probe now being chased away by this SCV. And then we have got this other probe moving around, going to be checking around for all that good stuff. No proxies, nothing like that. Just a cyber core after a gateway for Sharkbot, as this probe does move around. Still just scouting out, trying to steal some of the minerals of Xena. But now this marine is out, so the probe will be shown the door. Sharkbot says, don't mind my probe, it's just trying to make some new friends. That is not the truth. There has never been an innocent probe in the history of all time. Xena behind this does have a command center on the way. Sharkbot's got its robo going on up. It does have a few probes long distance mining, which is interesting. I guess it's probably saturated on that main base nexus, so just wanting to have the even amount of workers. As I believe in human games where you're just mining classically, that you do get a bonus from having additional workers. Like I think like worker number 17 and 18 offer a significant increase in mining, not as much as the fresh base would, but I think it is significant. Whereas then bot, which does have speed mining, I don't know this for a fact, but probably doesn't get any bonus from having an additional worker, because that's where that extra 7 to 10% efficiency comes from, having a worker pretty much always on the patch, I believe. Now, let's see here, as Sharkbot does have its natural nexus up, getting an immortal on the way. Sharkbot, meanwhile, or pardon me, Xena, meanwhile, is getting up a starport. And so, yeah, just both these bots building up for now, and Adept shading around, being a bit of a nuisance. We'll see if it completes that shade or not. It probably wanted to complete it, as the Adept was kind of caught in a corner, as it has been trapped on the map here. Thunderbird will actually go down, so that Adept definitely regretting that decision, but that's an example of how the map can really affect bot pathing. The third of Thunderbird is a pocket, which really can mess with bots. Xena has an SCV that has an urge to mine, but also seemingly got an urge to expand. So a bit of mixed commands being issued there. We'll see if it does go for a third base or not. There is a fusion core on the way presently. And there is an SCV that's moving out for Xena, but those workers definitely are getting multiple commands, pulling them around. This one does eventually overcome the urge to mine and does throw up that third command center, but that's very interesting to see how even top bots do have little quirks like that. Now, Sharkbot is getting aggressive with an immortal and a stalker. There's marines out for Xena, but nothing inside the bunker presently, and that's probably where those marines want to be. The bunker is eating plenty of shots, and Sharkbot has just waltzed across the map with an immortal and a stalker and is causing a lot of hurt to Xena. Bunkers being attempted, bunkers being canceled, and that is not very good. However, Xena does have that third base on the way. Sharkbot just retreats, waiting for the prism. Now it's potentially going to go back in. There is a battle cruiser on the way for Xena behind this, so this game is potentially just going to get even more scrappy. I am a little confused why Xena didn't put the marines inside the bunker, though. That's a bit unfortunate. And yeah, it doesn't really make sense why it didn't elect to do that, other than just maybe a programming blip or some sort of logic. SCVs being pulled off the line to support is very important, but then they do run away. Marines are trying to hold the high ground, but there's way too many stalkers from Sharkbot. Where'd that Prism end up, by the way? Prism and Immortal are back at home, not helping out, definitely slacking. And then this battle cruiser is just about for Xena, so that may may turn things around as this BC does path forward. One battlecruiser can definitely take on 5 stalkers depending on the micro, if there's any repair, that kind of thing. There is no Yamato cannon being researched, but Xena does need to shut this down as it is losing many SCVs, 16 SCVs going down, when really all it needed to do was keep that bunker alive and it probably would have been fine. So the stalkers are being cornered once again, trying to skirmish against this BC. They are getting some shots off, more damage being dealt. There's now a Colossus on the front lines, but that will not help against a battlecruiser. A second battlecruiser is just about out for, well, it's halfway out for Xena. It is on the way though. And now there's no anti-air left, so Sharkbot probably just wants to take these units home. It does have a stalker, a couple more stalkers coming forward to help out with this. The BC probably needs a repair as well. Fortunately for Xena, mules are a thing, otherwise its income would be very pitiful. I am concerned though, as there's no repair going down on this battle cruiser. Maybe the SCVs that were supposed to repair it died. The BC does teleport to the main base to finally be repaired, although there's, I mean, a Colossus there, so the battlecruiser does get dragged into battle once again. The bunker never completing at the natural, as Sharkbot is really just putting on a lot of pressure. Another battlecruiser comes forward, but I think we're about to lose this one here for Xena, which is very painful. It does disappear out of existence, as there's that graphical bug in the death animation. And then, let's see, this BC will skirmish with the stalkers, so it does well up until, well, it doesn't get repaired, but now this one is at least getting repaired, so that's important. That's definitely still a big blow that's been done to Xena. Currently it's 41 supply against 89, as Sharkbot is on a happy 3 bases, building lots of units. Even DT is on the way, which is something we don't see in a lot of bot games, but very cool that Sharkbot is actually going for that. Xena's trying to rebuild the bunker. It does have a second battlecruiser on the way, as stalkers are still skirmishing with the BCs. This is one of the interactions which is interesting, as battle cruisers have the same range, I believe, as stalkers, but stalkers are very volley based, so they kind of just want to get their shot off and retreat, whereas BCs are more prolonged damage. This Prism still being a nuisance. No Yamato cannon, just to Yamato it down. There's 5 DTs out for Sharkbot. They don't seem to be going in just yet. This battlecruiser is taking a bit of damage. It kills off 1 stalker. Xena is trying to get its economy back online. What a messy game this is. It's just a good example of how all these units are controlled independently. Battlecruiser's now trying to hunt down this Prism. It does have Prism speed though, so it probably will never be caught unless there's Yamato cannon eventually researched, which there isn't just yet, and the BC is really working overtime trying to hunt this down. Unless there's a miss micro or something, they shall not get it. Look at that, this Colossus then just getting big swipes off. How many kills does this have? I can't really see because it keeps getting picked up and dropped every second. This is just ridiculous bot micro by Sharkbot. As the Prism does move back on it, this is what can be done with almost 30,000 APM. As the Colossus will just never be hit. The Prism, does actually get a little too far forward, so it does need to pull back, and it does. DTs for Sharkbot may be going in to try and finish the job. This is going to be a big test for Xena, whether there's any detection. There is a scan, however, no turrets or anything, so it will just be scans trying to deal with these DTs, and there's a lot of DTs that can potentially just run around all over the place, and that's kind of what we're seeing as they just run right through the scan, and now SCVs are in trouble. There's the stalkers on the front also pushing on in. A disruptor goes out, almost hits a friendly DT. Another scan does get dropped by Xena, so quite a few of these DTs are falling. There's many remaining still though, or at least like 3 remaining actually. So Xena will need another scan. The Terran bot has been knocked down to a measly 5 SCVs as the DTs have killed off so many workers. It's just been worker death after worker death in this game. Sharkbot has killed off 84 workers. A battlecruiser teleports home to be repaired, but the question is, repaired by what? The 1 SCV that's remaining, this Colossus, is at 37 kills. Sharkbot flexing with its cloak. And I mean, Xena has built up a decent number of battlecruisers, 3 BCs out, but it's just not enough. And okay, Sharkbot now flexing as they are, Sharkbot trying to make a friend. After you GG, maybe we can get some coffee. Are you trying to cross a bridge or something? Sharkbot always One to flex DTs, kill off that third command center. This natural orbital command is about to go down as well. I think there's a scan to kill off the DTs, so very good scanning behavior from Xena, but it just goes to show that orbitals are not that reliable. All of a sudden, Yamato Cannon finishes up, so that's very cool to see. Unfortunately, I think it's a little bit too little, too late, as Xena, I think, will just eventually be killed off by Sharkbot, which is up to 5 bases, 90 probes behind this, even getting Blink for the DTs, because why not? As there's 4 BCs still left, but Xena has to spend its few resources on a scan, and then there's a bunch of stalkers now. So it is just a slow, inevitable death for Xena. This command center is going to burn down. There's another DT there as well, so even if there is a scan, it's not going to get the job done. Yamato Cannon does eventually kill off that prism, but the last orbital dies. And well done by Sharkbot, as it does take this one. And now's the time where I'll say we will be having one more match after this game, ladies and gentlemen, so stay tuned. All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, for our final match of the day, it's going to be random versus random. It's going to be Changeling taking on Xena, the old guard versus the new guard as far as random cheesy bots go. Although Changeling isn't really known for being super duper cheesy. It just plays basically like the bots it is structured off of. Pardon me, I'm just adjusting my volume a little bit more, as still just getting a little bit of that mic peaking. Feedback is always appreciated on these casts. And okay, so as far as what we've got goes, Changeling says basic Protoss opener, whereas Xena is boldly, I say, going for a proxy Marauder build, I believe. Which is wild that it's doing this because it doesn't know what race its opponent is, as Changeling is another random bot that is built off Deimos, Phobos, and Eris, some of the 3 best bots out there. Changeling is now scouting, saying random Terran. We'll see whether it puts 2 and 2 together as far as the fact that it's going to be getting cheesed incredibly hard here. And I guess the question kind of is, does this cheese work versus Deimos or not? I think the Proxy Marauder build is probably one of Xena's strongest builds that it has, as it does do a very good job with this build. So I am a little concerned. Now, Xena is a bit strapped for cash, as this is quite an early rush that just costs a lot of resources to get off the ground. Marauders are very expensive compared to a Marine. Then you got to get your concussive shell too. So this is a rush that's definitely benefiting from, that definitely benefits from speed mining. We do see though that the probe of Changeling keeps forcing keeps forcing Xena to go off the line and block that Vespene Geyser from being taken by the probe, which is cutting into the income of Xena. And Xena has yet to fire up concussive shell. It does have the first Marauder out, and it is just running across. Second Marauder out as well. And now Changeling is going to be on the defense. There is a single battery on the high ground, a second Stalker just about to be out. A probe runs down that ramp, then quickly turns on its heels and runs out of there. So Xena trying to poke up this ramp, but not having success as Changeling throws up another battery. I'm probably going to do that till the end of time, guys, as there's just an association in my mind. But this seems to be quite a good response to this Marauder cheese from Xena, as Xena may need to pool up these Marauders a little bit more to try and break this, as you never will have success just feeding Marauders into Stalkers on the high ground. So Xena turns around. It's now waiting for concussive shell, although then it decides to go back in there. So it may get like a probe or 2, but so far 4 Marauders have been lost for nothing, and there's 3 Stalkers out for Changeling, so that's massively problematic now. Xena doesn't have concussive shell yet either. It does almost get a single Stalker, but then the Stalker just gets pulled back. And this looks like a fairly straightforward defense from Changeling, as Xena's cheese is falling on its face, and while its cheeses are very darn good, I think sometimes it would benefit from pooling its units a little bit more. Personally, I'm in the mindset that these bots don't really adjust their play all that much, but so here's my theory as far as it's concerned. Like Xena, it attacked with the first 2 Marauders. I think a fairly dynamic way to program the build would be to adjust it so that as this cool micro goes on, you guys can listen to me ramble a little bit, as those Marauders do all just die. I think a good way to go about it would be to adjust your pooling amount based on build history. For example, if Xena plays, I guess it is more difficult because Changeling is a random bot, but if Xena plays versus Changeling random, you could even add a check in the build to say like, hey, oh, it's a Protoss opponent. Previously, I lost with sending in the first 2 Marauders, so let's try pooling up to 4. And I think that would be a pretty dynamic way to overcome defenses. We are going to have 4 Marauders go on in, a scan gets dropped, and they immediately turn around, which is good to see. But yes, that is something that I think would be a good way to solve the problem of having 10 Marauders run in and not kill off a single Stalker. As Xena is still just getting out more and more Marauders behind this. It has built up a decent number, 7 Marauders against 12 Stalkers. The big problem is the Immortal. Stimpak is being researched for Xena. We'll see if it waits for that to finish. There is also a potential situation in which Changeling, say, moves out for an attack and Xena comes in at the right timing to go for a counterattack. And I mean, it's just pumping out Marauders, whereas Changeling now is investing in a Nexus, so maybe there's a chance for Xena to make this work. Notably, Xena is also floating a little bit of money, so not spending its resources as quick as it can. But we shall see, is that Marauder count is just growing. I'm guessing Xena is now waiting for Stimpak, which it is good that it's at least waiting a little bit. We even have a command center on the way for the Terran bot, so it is having expanding behavior built into it, but it is still just gearing up for another big Marauder attack. Changeling hanging out at its natural. And this is really going to depend on the micro between these bots, as like 13 Marauders puts out a lot of damage, guys. Against Stalkers, the Immortal will be the big question. We'll see whether it's just going to retreat or whether it will get lots of firing done on these Marauders. If it does, that would be really important. Still, though, Xena just pumping out more and more Marauders. I genuinely have no idea what it's waiting for. Okay, here we go. So all the Marauders are going to try and break this Protoss location. There is 17 Stalkers against 16 Marauders. Unfortunately, the injured Marauder is in the front. Now the Marauders are stimming. Moving forward, we see how quickly they do delete one of those Stalkers. It's a big skirmish, but then Xena says nope and gets on out of there. However, it may regret that decision as Changeling decides to pursue a little bit, but then turns around. So we have a lot of injured Marauders for Xena now. That would really benefit from a Medivac at this point. I'm not sure we'll get there, though. But at least Xena does have up this natural base. And oh, here we go. Changeling is moving out for a counterattack. If Xena goes in, this would be the moment to go in to basically force a base race against its opponent. And that is a world where Xena can win this game. And I think it probably will attack on in as soon as it sees this army on its own side of the map. So we are going to have a bit of a wacky base race between these two bots. In go all the Stalkers. Xena is going to want to just run away with all its stuff. And oh, Xena's actually going home to try and defend. That's unfortunate. I think the move would have absolutely been to go in for an attack, and it does turn around, so it's thinking about it. But what's it waiting for? Come on, Xena, you got to attack. It just wanted to pool up its units a bit more, and unfortunately that is going to cost Xena critical time. And just going home to defend is not going to win it this game. So that's a bit unfortunate there. We have seen Xena kind of go for these attacks once it sees an opponent's army on its side of the map, but I guess it's choosing to play a little bit safer or something like that. And yeah, Changeling will take this one, I think, as Xena has got one SCV remaining. It's building a factory, which is cool that Xena was planning on like macroing out of this. But just the Marauders will not get there in time, and as a result, we are going to have Xena win this game. I think there's no question about it. Yeah, the Marauders can't go up the ramp there. They're too afraid. as there is a lot of Protoss up there. They are going to try targeting that Immortal, and they do get it, but there's just so much damage between the Stim and the Stalkers. Well done, as Changeling does take this one. Yeah, very interesting game to watch, but after the start and losing 10 Marauders for nothing, you really can't expect to win the game, I don't think. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you've watched up until this point, click that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and yeah, leave a comment down below saying more bots if you want to see more of these bot matches. I certainly enjoy casting them. If you do want to support the channel and the school fund, consider becoming a YouTube member, as that goes a long way. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Also, just a shout out to ProBots. They're going to be starting a new tournament soon, so keep an eye out for that if you want to see bots in an even more competitive setting. And yes, I'll see you guys next time.